Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to have a fantastic webinar. We're very excited. This is the most important webinar we say we've ever done. Normally our title partners across the country are great about bringing you and training you and helping you with this tool and delivering it, but we're in different times right now, and we're taking advantage of going direct to the company and us helping you with some of our net sheets and calculators. By the way, I just wanted to thank everyone on the call today. We got 3,000 real estate agents from across the country. I guess they limit you to 3,000. So if for some reason you get knocked off the call, we're going to be doing 3 of these calls this week. I don't know if it'll let you sign back on. I'm not sure, but we thank you for coming on. We're going to try to make it a great use of your time and show you some of the stuff that we're working on, some of the things that we currently have in our apps and things that we can be doing right now to help our customers amid this change in our culture and our times of all working from home and kind of pulling through all this together. Real quickly, if you haven't done a GoToMeeting before, everyone kind of has this little box on their screen, and there's a little orange arrow, and if you click on it, it'll let you see more of the screen, and I think that'll be useful. But anytime you touch on it again, it will open back up, and you'll be able to see this little drop-down box. The most important part of this is we have all of our team on board. We're working remotely, but we're here to answer your questions. So if any questions you have as we go through this, we're going to try to circle back and get to some of those at the end of the call. But throughout the call, anytime you have a question or a thought, please type that in here, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Also, if you're using your computer audio, a lot of these webinar systems are being stressed at the moment. I've seen more webinars than I've ever seen before, and I've been on a lot of them. And so some of them are having a delay in this audio and some of the screens. If you want to use your phone, you have that option. If you just click on the phone call option, and you can switch over to your phone. So if we have really good internet here. We tested it before the webinar, but if for some reason you have any problems, that's what you can switch over to. Okay, what we want to get into today. So again, we have agents from all over the country on this call, and what we're going to be showing is I want to go through the buyers and sellers programs. I want to show you some of the hot buttons and things to focus on right now. I want to go through some of the marketing content. That's a piece in this app that has some really powerful stuff that we can be using for this moment. I also want to make sure everybody knows that I'm going to be showing a generic app. Actually, it's University Agent. A lot of you have a branded version of this app from your local title sponsors. They're heroes. They're the ones that make all this possible. We're just, a simple company here in Dallas, Texas, who, does what they tell us, and they give us all the local fees and rates and help us make this specific for your market. This is College Station, Texas. University Agent 1 is the one I'm going to be showing, but you guys have your own branded version of that. And I want you to follow along. I'll give you a second. I think this is all customers on the call today, but we did have a few people want to reach out to some agents that haven't seen PalmAgent before. But most importantly, I want to let you know my numbers are going to be different than your numbers, because we build this specifically for every county and city across the country. The basic principles of what I'm going to be showing you will work for everyone, but the numbers that we use are going to be different. So don't be thrown off by that. I know that can be a little bit funny if you're following along on your phone. Just look at the overall principles of how to use it, and I'll show you how to customize the numbers as we go through this. And with that being said, let's jump over to PalmAgent. And what I want to do is I want to walk you through the basics of the program. I want to walk you through some key features that would be great right now. Our title partners came to us and they said, remote net sheets, being able to do these from anywhere when we can't get a hold of everyone at the moment. This is very important. Could we hold a webinar for the whole country, have everyone come on, answer their questions, and walk them through some of the basic things that they could be doing right now? So what I want to start with is our seller's net sheet. So if you look down here at the bottom, we've downloaded PalmAgent. You'll have your own branded version. Talk to your local title company if you don't have one for some reason, and they'll make sure you get one. And then right now I'm going to go through the sellers program. And really the evolution of this, I've worked for PalmAgent for 20 years. Both of my parents were brokers in the early 80s. I've been in real estate all of my life. And this was something that we saw as a real problem in the industry, that we get out on listing presentations, and as our sellers are telling us, you know, we lost our job, you know, we need to sell this immediately, we're moving back to Washington or Colorado. You know, all types of curveballs can come up in a listing presentation. We can walk on the inside of the house and look around and realize it wasn't exactly what we expected. And so because every single seller wants to know how much are we going to clear after we pay title fees and closing costs and real estate commissions, you know, what is my house worth and what are we going to make when we sell it? That's just a common question that I don't think is going anywhere. And we said, what if we created a simple way from our phones that we love our escrow officers and we love our partners and our transaction coordinators who can help us with some of this stuff. But what if we just had something simple on our phone, or we could plug in, we think this house is worth $585,000, okay? So that's the first thing we'll do, is we'll just plug in the sales price, what we think the house would sell for. And then the broker fee, I'm gonna kind of explain some of this stuff a little more in detail. But we default the broker fee at 6%. Now, because this is a computer, your title partners have told us that if we try to go to 5%, the program won't calculate. We've rigged it in there, but you can go to 7%, and that's a joke. And hopefully, my sense of humor comes through on the over the webinar system. But you can plug in a broker fee, whatever you want to change it. And over here, there's a little gear. And so if you want to go in and change the splits, and say this is going to be a listing broker fee of 2% and a buyer's broker fee of 3%, or change any of that, then that's how you would do it. So I want to try to keep this training very basic and simple, and make sure the seller's net sheet, we all understand how to do it. Repairs gives us a blank that if you want to go in and touch on, you know, if you wanted to allow $1,500 or something, some type of margin in there, then you can fill in something like that. Miscellaneous is a really interesting field, where if I click on the gear, it pops up and says, do you want to add to the seller's closing costs, or do you want to subtract? So let's say that the buyer says they'll pay for their own home warranty, so the seller doesn't need to. Buyer warranty. Get me spelling on a webinar, and that equals trouble of $500. That's how you would do something like this. We try to keep it very easy. Or if the seller wants to pay a seller contribution I love these little auto fill in text of, let's say, $2,000 towards closing costs. Miscellaneous, we call it kind of a catch-all. Any types of situations like that would arise, you can go to miscellaneous and kind of fill those fields out. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that and go back. And let's see. Oh, it wants me to go ahead and leave the home warranty in. It's already saving it. So I'll type in home warranty 500. Okay. Then I'm going to go back, and it says your miscellaneous costs now have been saved, and now they're stored in here. Okay. And the next field I'm going to show you is property taxes. So what we've done, and again, your numbers are going to be different than my numbers unless you happen to be in College Station today. We go in and add up a tax composite. So we add up the school and the city and the county taxes for a given area, and what you can do is come up with a percentage that the taxes typically run per $100,000 of a house price. It's always better, if you want to clear that out, if you actually know the property taxes were $15,500 last year, to put in an actual dollar amount. That's always a more accurate way of doing it. It's not always available. So if I clear this out and I go back to 2.38, you know, whatever composite we have for the area, we also give everybody, and you might not have noticed this little, they call it a caret next to taxes. And if I touch on the caret, because we don't always sell in the same county, you can go and change the areas. This is where we've made it specific for your markets. and say this one is selling in this county. So that's kind of how the property taxes work in the program. And then the next field we have is loan balance. And so I'm going to say that they still owe $485,000 on the house, because we want to figure out their payoff and how much interest and prorate, all that kind of stuff. Interest rate they're paying on that is 5%. Let's say no, they're actually paying 4.5%. And then the last piece is we have to estimate a closing date. And I'm estimating 60 days out. You know, right now you may want to do 90 days out and estimate it this way. So that's about as complicated as we can make this. You know, I went through and touched on all of the buttons. And if you can fill out the sales price, the broker fee, I threw some repairs in, you know, I threw some miscellaneous costs in just to show you how that works. Property taxes, loan balance, interest rate they're paying on that loan balance, estimated closing date. We've limited it down to these questions. And when you hit compute, it gives you an estimated seller's proceeds of $49,034. This is your sales price, your balance, the prorated taxes owed because of the time of year of closing, your closing costs, and your net at close. Now, I'm aware that we have 3,000 agents from all across the country on this call. The way that prorated taxes are calculated are different in every state, and even a lot of times every county. And so just know that we've worked with your local title operation. And so if they're paid once a year, twice a year, 4 times a year, if they're paid in arrears, which in Texas, you know, we live in our house for a year and then we pay property taxes, or they're paid in advance, we have all of that built in for you. And if they are paying taxes to escrow and they are paid in arrears, everyone won't have this button, but this lets you see even the final net when they get their taxes back if they're current and they paid into their escrow, and what the final net will wind up being. So that's the basic seller's net sheet. I want to make sure everybody understands how it works. Again, if you have questions, please type them in. But this, I'm going to restart it and go over. This is, you know, plug in a sales price, plug in the payoff, 425, choose a closing date and hit compute. We've tried to take a seller's net proceeds down to 15 seconds if possible, where you can get a really good idea that they should net about $57,978 on this property. Now, we have this little button down here that says detailed closing costs. And so the closing costs of $36,900, if you wanted to look at those item by item, then it gives you a breakdown of what they're paying for the owner's title policies, settlement fees, interest, because of the day where we chose to close at the end of the month. They're going to owe interest for that month, and then we split out the brokerage fees. There's a button up here that says edit. So if you want to go in here and say edit, and we can change fees, we can erase fees, we can go in and add a fee. Like if I wanted to add a, let's see how this, there we go. If we want to add a transaction fee of $500. It's really cool and easy how you can go in and customize these costs. You know, take a HUD out, look at the last HUD you ran and say, you know, this is, I want to change this fee to this one and this one to this one. We work with your title partners and make this as close as we can, but there's no reason to not make it as accurate as you possibly can. So the transaction fee, I would like to add not only for this estimate, but from now on, every estimate that I run. And now we've added in a transaction fee of $500. Okay, so now when I go back, that's part of these closing costs, and that's basically the seller's net sheet. One other thing I wanted to point out, I'm going to slide my screen up, is on loan balance. If you ever find yourself, and I'll confess, math was never my favorite subject. Numbers have always kind of overwhelmed me a little bit. And if you're ever on a listing presentation and the seller doesn't know their payoff, that can be frustrating. And you know, they don't know where their paperwork is and they don't have it in front of them and they're not quite sure. Or better yet, if I'm at my kid's soccer game and I'm talking to his friends' parents up in the stands and they're saying, you know, we're thinking about selling, that person usually doesn't know how much they owe on their house. And you could give me all day and a pen and paper and calculator, and I'm not going to be any closer tomorrow when you come back on figuring out how much this person owes on their house. That's just out of my repertoire of tricks. But watch this. This is really cool, and I want to make sure everybody knows this is here. On loan balance, there's a little gear. These gears are your friend when you see them. And so I'm going to click on the gear, and it's going to come up and ask me a few questions. We have to know something, but we can start problem solving and asking them questions about how much did you buy your house for? And they say, I bought our house for $525,000. Most people know what they bought it for. They just don't know where they are right now in their loan. And it says, do you remember what you put down? And they say, yeah, we put 20% down. And we borrowed it at 5% interest, and we took out a 30-year note. Most of us, even personally, can do that on our own house without, calling the bank and looking up paperwork. And again, we're just sitting in the stands talking to someone about possibly selling their house. And I often share a lot of principles my father's taught me through the years. And one of them was, it never hurts to look smart. And this is something that even though my math teachers in high school and college wouldn't believe it, it helps you kind of be able to go through and problem solve and look smart in front of your customers, or even smarter than you already are. So loan start date, this is the other question. Most people cannot say, I moved into my house, Jeremy, about 69 payments ago. They don't know that. But if you give them a little bit of time, they can say, yeah, we moved here the summer of 2011. Okay, so as long as they can help you with pulling that out, we can say, assuming this right here, okay, right now you should owe about $354,000. If you've made all your payments, this is where you should be on your loan, which I think is just really cool. And you go back and hit use, and it says, okay, then using that, you should, just by looking at some comps, your house should be worth about this. And you could be looking at about $128,000 clearing when you close. I think that's just like having a hammer and being a builder, something we all should have on our phone for those scenarios where it pops up, where quickly in 10, 15, 20 seconds, you can kind of problem solve and go through. I'll show you one more bonus feature. On loan balance, we also have the interest rate. We assumed 5% interest. Let's say they don't know their interest rate, or you can put 4% interest. Again, these gears are our friend, and this is kind of hard to show on a webinar, but I'm going to touch on the gear, and it's going to pop up and show me the mortgage rate history for the last 30 years. And so I can go back and say, they said they moved here in 2011. The high for that year was 5.05. The low for that year was 3.91, and the average rate was 4.45. So to be safe, using this estimate, again, I'm not telling them how much they owe. I'm just trying to problem solve and help them work through this together. Then you should owe about 4.4. Let's just assume the average rate that year was 4.45. I'm going to use that, and now when I calculate everything, it's going to base their loan balance off that 4.45 rate. So I just wanted you to know those little hidden features are there, and that's kind of how you get to it on just a basic seller's net sheet. If that's all we learned today, I think that's pretty incredible, and I want to make sure everybody knows how to get to that on their phone. The other thing I wanted to point out, and this really doesn't show well on a webinar, but we have what we call hidden features. We just watched how the 400,000 realtors that are using this across the country, what scenarios were they using this for? And one of them we saw is it's really difficult to predict sales price. We do our best to estimate when we're just talking to a seller about selling their house, but we don't know how the next 60 days are going to play out and what offers we're going to get. And so, we give them a number of what we think it will sell for, but it can't be predicted. So what we did is I'm going to turn my phone sideways, and if you're on this screen, this should work for all of you. Sometimes if you have a lock on your screen, it won't work, if you've locked your screen into one view. But what I've just done is I've run 5 net sheets at the same time. And what I did is I created a window. It went up 10,000, 20,000, and down 10,000 and 20,000. And it creates this $40,000 window. It computes title insurance at each price point. It computes the endorsements, the real estate commissions. It's running 5 net sheets at once. And it gives you something when you're sitting with your sellers and you say, you know, if we get a little more than asking, then this would be about your net at close. And if we get an offer for $505,000, then you're looking at about $109,503. Well, that still gets you where you're trying to go. You know, it gives you a way to take their temperature and feel them out a little bit on their flexibility on offers. Or if they're just like, no, we have to have this much to move and to put a down payment on our next house. We can't take a penny less. So it's just a really smooth way of taking their temperature, but also showing them a $40,000 window. And I just haven't seen a better way in real estate as far as talking numbers with a seller and giving them a window of kind of what to expect at each price point than this. And so if you're intimidated by numbers, this can help you with some confidence. And if you're a person that really is great and prides yourself on numbers, it's just convenience. Like there's no way to do this faster than just turning your wrist. So again, all I did is I turned my phone sideways. Let me see if it'll come on. Here we go. Turn my phone sideways and it launches all of those features. So 5 net sheets at once. I just want to make sure it's there and you know how to use it. Down here in the bottom, so these are $10,000 increments. Depending on the part of the country you're in, that might be too small or too large. So I can hit this little gear down here and I can choose, do I want to do that in $1,000 increments, $5,000, $10,000, $25,000, $50,000, or $100,000? You know, if you're at the $2 million price point, you don't want to show someone how much they would net if they sold it for $2,010,000. You know, that doesn't make sense. So this lets you customize those increments that you show it in. And I think the default for most of you is 10,000, and that's how that works. The other thing I wanted to show you while we're in the net sheet is your ability to send it. So up here in the top right, I'm going to hit this little arrow, and it's going to say, do you want to send a full report, which has a breakdown of all the closing costs and the disclaimers, this is a good faith estimate only, please retain never prior to closing, all that kind of stuff. We have a feature called text to snapshot. And what a snapshot is it basically just sends you a picture of this screen. Because sometimes, depending on how far you are down in the transaction with someone, they're just wanting the basic idea of what's going on. They don't need a list of all the closing costs. They just want this screen basically. So it will send you into your text messaging and just send them a screenshot of that basic information, and it also sticks a disclaimer on it. So it's better than just a screenshot. The other options you have is if you want to go ahead and this is really used more as a closing technique. You know, if you're with a seller and you say, hey, if you want to go ahead and get the process started, you know, things are going to move fast once they turn the lights back on, and I can go ahead and get this started with the title company, and it'll send it directly to your title partner so they can start the process, or if you want to save the estimate. So those are your 4 options of what do you want to do with it, but I'm going to go in to send a full report. And so unlike the text message option, this takes you into your branded version. Now, because of regulations in different states, and most of you know this, we have what's called a free version of PalmAgent. So everything I've shown you so far is free. And then we have what's called the premium version that's $1 a month or $10 a year. And if we could charge 50 cents a month, we would, but $1 is the lowest they'll let you charge for an app. And that's really for compliance, because when we start putting your branding on something along with the title company's branding and allow you to put your picture in and that kind of stuff, we want to make sure this is compliant for you and the title company and your end users. So that's part of our paid version, but like I said, $1 a month is as inexpensive as we could make it. And I'm going to go through some premium content to kind of show you what that looks like. I think it's the biggest bargain in real estate. I really do. But everything else I've shown you so far is completely free through your title partners. But this gives you the branded version where I can put my picture in, I can customize my company logo, and I can put all the numbers and closing costs and send that to the client. Now, if I swipe over, you see these little dots, I can choose different styles. So depending on what styles you want to send to your clients, everybody has their own taste. We've worked with our designers to go in and give you options so that you can kind of swipe through and see which style suits you best. And then the other thing I wanted to point out here is this is becoming more important. And if you want to go in and send this to a client in Spanish, let's say, it's our most popular, then it will go ahead and translate all of those real estate terms for you. Because even if the client you're working with, English is their first language, sometimes it's not the first language that they're using at home, with their family when they're sitting around talking about selling their home. So this just gives you the ability to quickly translate it into any language you would like before you send it over to seller. And again, it has the signature lines and it has all of the language of this is a good faith estimate only. Please remember prior to closing and understand the degree of the disclaimer and all the legal mumbo jumbo. And you also, on a lot of the different styles, have color options depending on your company and brand of how you want to brand these estimates for your clients. So I just wanted to at least point that out and show you where it is. And then the last two things I want to show you, again, we're just on the seller's net sheet, is this feature right here was the most asked question we had in our 20 years of running PalmAgent, was realtors saying, do you have a way that we can show a seller, especially an unrealistic seller? I don't know if those are in every market in the country, but I'm going to say it's pretty safe to say they're in every market in the country. If you ever deal with an unrealistic seller who's having trouble doing with price reductions, and they just have to get their number, again, they're emotional. The more emotional we get, and I've been a seller, so I know it's emotional, the more logical and factual you guys have to be in communicating with the client. And so is there a way of showing them that keeping their house on their market longer is actually going to cost them money? And so what we did is, if you just simply swipe over, so I'm going to swipe the screen over, and on this net sheet I just ran, it's going to break out the taxes, insurance, and interest you're paying at 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months. So that, and then down here it says months. I want to tighten that up to days, and I want to show it at 30, 60, 90, and 120 days. And a lot of you will want to go in here and even edit the expenses and say, I don't want to show just taxes, insurance, and interest. We extract principal from this, of their payment, because they get credit for the principal part of their payment. But if I wanted to go in and say they're also paying $500 a month in an HOA, and I add up their monthly utilities, and I say the yard maintenance, the electricity, all of that's running another $850 a month, and I want that to be part of the calculation. Now I can really look at what is it costing me to leave this house on the market. And a lot of times, if your seller's even already moved, this just gives you a visual to say, hey, listen, I know this offer is $10,000 under what you were wanting. However, if it takes us another 60 days to sell this house, you would have come out ahead by accepting this offer. And so just having those emotional conversations about price reductions, or they didn't get their offer price, but it took us 60 days to get it. So if it takes us another 60 days, what is that actual cost to us? This gives you a really logical and factual approach to running that. And again, you can send this graph by clicking up here to your seller, or you can sit there with them in person and have the conversation and just show them. I just want to make sure you're aware of the holding cost of keeping your price, your market on your house on the market. If we went ahead and priced it at $515 and we could sell it 60 days sooner or 30 days sooner, or $505, you actually end up coming out $2,000 difference than us dragging this on for 60 more days. So this is really, really awesome. And I haven't seen another way to calculate this unless someone just kind of made their own Excel spreadsheet. But more importantly, the visual of being able to sit with your seller and quickly run through this. So again, this is our basic seller's net sheet. I kind of went through how the escrow account works depending on your state. I went through the detailed closing costs and how you can kind of add to closing costs. I showed you this little header here. Always pay attention to that, where you can swipe over and burn the holding costs on that property if you quickly want to see that. And then the other direction I want to show you is multiple offers. And this is really probably the most underrated portion of our program, is multiple offers. We sat here and said, I believe, there's a a foot traffic report that a lot of you are aware of. And in January, it was the highest it had ever been since they've been recording how many people were looking at houses every day. You know, more lock boxes were opened in January than the history of them recording this foot traffic report. So I happen to feel that whenever they turn the lights back on, we're going to be able to make 12 months of income in 7 or 8 months. And that has me excited. And I think multiple offers, you know, we still have a demand problem, supply-demand problem. The demand is there. The supply, we have a supply problem where there's not enough houses. And so multiple offers are something that a lot of us have experienced the last few years. And I don't think that's going away. It may take us a minute to get back to where we were, but I feel like we're going to have an excellent year. And there's a reason our economy was as strong as it was going into this. And so this is a piece that if you want to go through quickly and bundle the different offers and say, okay, you know, this was our first offer that we ran through. I'm going to add that offer. And now I want to make sure and build in the next offer, which was 545, or now I'll say 515. And I want to go in and say it wasn't a conventional, it was all cash. And the option fee we'll say was let's see, I'll do $1,500 option fee and 30 days option. All of you don't have this in every market. It kind of depends on the geography of where you're selling the property. Earnest money will put $15,000, and a home warranty, we'll say this guy's going to pay his own home warranty and he can close in 30 days, you know, something like that. And the contingency would be home must sell first. Okay, so this gives you the ability to take all of your offers and package them for your seller to showcase. And this one I'm going to say is 565, and we'll do, you know, $5,000 in earnest money, not 50, and we'll say no home warranty, and he'll close in 60 days. And we'll say that their buyer fee is going to be 2%, you know, something we can also factor in. So now when I hit add offer, this quickly packages these offers for you. Now, if you hit edit, you can go in and erase any of these offers you want. You can also rearrange if you want to grab one and slide one up over the other. And you can also go in and star an estimate. You know, if you think this is the strongest offer, this is the strongest seller or buyer, you know, you can go ahead and kind of denote that on the estimate. And now when I hit done and I go here and say, now let me see the full report, it gives you a really beautiful side-by-side comparison, showing you the metrics that they want to kind of measure and help them decide. And it gives you an easy way to present this to a seller in an organized way where they can help make what decisions best for them. You know, you're going to lead them, but ultimately the seller has to make these decisions. And this is not only really fast, but looks very professional. So again, I wanted to go deep in our training today. I'm going to start over. But this is the seller's net sheet where you plug in a sales price, you plug in their loan balance, and you hit compute, and you get an estimate in 2 seconds. You swipe over, you can see the holding cost on that property, which I think is unbelievable. And you swipe over the other way, and you can see the multiple offer feature if you'd like to package some offers to show to a seller. Okay, so that's the seller's net sheet. Now I want to jump over on the buyer's side and show you our buyer's estimate. This is really good. In no way is this meant to replace your lenders. Our lenders are our experts. I want them pre-qualified before I go show them a house. But what happens often is people get pre-approved for a $500,000 loan, and you can tell we have a lot of people in California on this call this morning, and you know, you can tell that I'm in Texas because there's not a lot you can buy in Southern California for $500,000, or this afternoon. But this is made for, I get pre-approved for a $500,000 loan. Now we're going to go house shopping. And we're going to look at houses that are 400, 450. I'm going to find one I love that's 575. And if all of us are just a buyer for a minute, so you have 575 at 10% down, 4% interest, Again, if you know they've met with a lender and their rate's 4.5 or their rate's 3.5, just show them different scenarios. Let them play with the numbers. We're not locking in a loan for them. We're just giving them an estimated payment and closing cost. And then hit compute, and you can real quickly get an idea of, this will run you about $4,000 a month, and your total closing cost will be about $75,406. Now, the one thing I want to point out in closing costs, and the one thing I want all 3,000 of us on this call to go through, is over here on detailed closing costs. The one main number that we've kind of gone back and forth with our users is we have our escrow account, we have our title fees separated for you, but down here, this origination fee of $5,100. So we default a 1% origination fee. However, I'm going to touch on edit. That can be totally customized, okay? So you know what lender you work with most often, and we're always careful to estimate on the high side so that if something's $1 too much, you'll hear complaining. But if you tell them it's $500 and it ends up being an $800 savings, they're happy. So if you wanted to go in here and say, my lender I use 90% of the time charges a 0.5 point, or they charge a 0 origination fee. They don't charge an origination fee. Feel free to go in for yourself, talk with your lender and customize that, because that then asks you, do you want to do that just for this estimate or for all of them? And it says, from now on, I don't want to charge an origination fee. My lenders that I use don't charge that. Well, we don't want to assume that for you, but that really does change the closing cost quite a bit. But I encourage you to go in and look at all of these fees, because you can, we work with your amazing title partners to create most of these for your area, but you also may say, we don't have this fee in my market, or this fee I'd rather do at $300 instead of $200. That's kind of the beauty of the program, is we let you totally customize it and dial it in for your specific buyer or seller. So it's worth taking the time to just take out a HUD and look at that and go through it and just play with those fees, because once you save them, then it's really, really accurate. You'll say, oh, wow, that ended up being $4 difference or $40 difference than what the numbers actually ended up being. And it gives you a tool when you're driving around working with a buyer and they say, what if we could put 20% down? What if we could put a little more down and save the PMI? Then how much would that change the payment, and how much would that change the closing cost? So this buyer's estimate is really powerful. The number one way I say to use it, or number one way that I've seen it used, and I'm a little bit prejudiced on this because I actually had this exact scenario, was I found my dream home, but I was stuck at 575 and the seller was not coming below 600, okay? And my realtor made the mistake, and this is what I do for a living, of saying, hey, Jeremy, you're 25,000 apart. That's not a lot of money over the life of the loan, which is true. It's a very true statement, but it's emotional. I'm dealing in emotion, and I'm already maxed out. I didn't want to go above 500, and I've already now maxed myself out. And so when she told me $25,000 wasn't a lot of money, it really upset me. Like inside, I was boiling. A better approach is by saying, Jeremy, I just want to let you know I'm here to work for you, but if we did go up to their price, it's going to change the payment about, in this scenario, it was $85 a month. And so this is something that lets you be more logical and factual when you're going through and working with a buyer or a seller, and break the numbers down, help negotiate those tense moments where it's not even a lender is there. They've already met with the lender. They're pre-approved, but now we're trying to work through a difficult situation. This gives you a tool that you can go through and do that with ease. Again, the closing costs, you can break down the closing costs just like the other one, or you can email it to them instantly. And one thing I do want to point out, I'm going to switch over to our premium button down here, okay? So the premium button, so I went through the buyer's calculator and the seller's calculator. We've got a lot of other cool calculations. This one right here is probably the biggest wow we've ever created. Is just me showing it to agents face to face and them saying, man, I get this question all the time. And this one is, you know, we live in a payment-centric culture where people end up living in their house payment, not necessarily their house price. And that's why these interest rates have so much positive effects on our industry, is because, you know, even though the prices have gone up, if that interest rate comes down, it's that payment that we're living in every month. And so if you've ever had the question of, you know, they told me I could afford this much, but really I'd like to keep my payment at $3,500 a month. This gives us something where when they say payment, they're 99% of the time they're saying principal, interest, taxes, insurance, PMI, everything. This is what I can afford. And this calculator, I've seen principal interest calculators. I've never seen another principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and PMI calculator where you can actually put in a payment and it will build up 30 years and turn that into a mortgage and say, if that's what you want your payment to be, then you can afford about $480,000 in house. And that's with 10% down. If you wanted to slide this bar over and put 20% down, then you could afford about a $551,000 house. Just this calculator alone, the fact that it's free for everyone through your title partners, I think this one's really solid. So I just wanted to make sure we jumped into this and showed you how to do it. And made sure you knew this was here. Those three calculators I just showed you, we're going to do another webinar and really break this into two because there's so much here. But I wanted to make sure on the basic one that at least we know the seller's net sheet, the buyer's estimate, and this program monthly affordability. You know, I can afford $3,000 a month. How much house can I afford? So that you know when you're still getting some of these questions from your clients, you have a way of answering them. Now, I want to jump over to premium real quick. And Jared, if you could go ahead and look at some of the questions. I'm going to pull you on in just a second.
Sure.
This is one of my favorite things as far as posting on social media. A lot of us are looking for ways that we can build our brands and help educate and bring value to our customers right now in a time where they have a lot of questions. Rates are low and they want to know what that means for them. So this is the best example I've seen of understanding the power of giving you guys the control over the numbers you show to your clients. This is our tax revenue last year, and a lot of the politicians wonder why we have trouble getting the Americans to care enough about our deficit. You know, I kind of see the deficit in trillions, and I'm like, okay, but we had 3.4 trillion in tax revenue. Our Fed budget's 4.7 trillion. Our new debt we're adding is 1.2 trillion. Our national debt right now, we looked at it last night, is just over 23 trillion. And the budget cuts they've done are 53 billion in the last year. Now, watch this. I'm going to take the same number that probably makes most of our eyes roll back in our head, and I'm going to take 8 zeros equally off of each of these. And now I'm going to talk about a family income and see if you understand the story here and why we're in so much trouble. This is something we can relate to. The 3.4 trillion is hard to even understand. My brain doesn't even comprehend it. But 34,230, I get it. The money the family's spending is 47,460. Now I can kind of see the problem. The money the family's also adding on their credit card, you know, is 12,690. The outstanding balance they have on their credit card right now is 236,000, and they're making 34,000 a year. And they got together and said, this is a problem. Let's cut some stuff out of our budget, and they cut out $53. So this helps you understand the numbers you use to tell a story can really impact the stories that you're telling. And the reason I say this is I want to swipe over and show you what we've done in this. This is part of the $1 a month, and I just want you to know that it's here. Is you can go in and look at these infographics. We have 4 full-time marketing people who are creating this stuff for you. And you can say, you know, rates are historically low. So here's something I may want to share with my clients right now. Now, we brand it with your picture and your branding, so it's kind of created. Don't miss your chance to lock in historically low rates. So you find an infographic that you really like, and then you hit continue, and what it does is it then pulls you into our calculators. And this is the powerful part, because we didn't invent infographics. But what you want to be able to do is say, who is my target client on social media? So if I want to post this on social media, my average sales price that I'm targeting is $625,000. Okay, so what it does is when you put in 625,000, it now builds this infographic with the numbers and the story of 625,000. Okay, so that we're seeing 15 to 20 times more engagement, more likes, more comments when you take numbers that your audience is used to seeing. Because typically what we see is these infographics are pre-made. They're using a $100,000 scenario, and most of the country doesn't connect, or they use $1 million scenario, and a lot of your buyers can't relate or understand the $1 million sales price. So it's best if you guys know who you're targeting, and you can create dynamic infographics branded for you that you can throw up to social media. You know, there's enough to do one every few days, a new infographic that tells the story that you want to tell, and post it directly on Facebook. So I wanted you to know this premium section over here, that's a whole $1 a month. We go in and build content for you, and lenses. The lenses kind of help you dress up your listings, and even some of these calculators that you can post on social media to help capture your leads and buyer information, because they have to fill it out before they can use the calculator. So this premium section is really cool right now, and this is something I even want to go in and show, and then that's where I was going with this, was the geo report. So one of the things we have in premium is on a buyer's estimate, a thing we call a geo report. So the geo report lets you go in for, say, an open house, and it will build a report with the numbers I've put in 600,000, but also, you know, the closest grocery stores, gyms, restaurants, schools nearby, fiber. This is my favorite, the internet speeds. There's only one other real estate company that's offering the internet speeds, for you can create infographics, sound scores. This lets you go in and build location-based reports to showcase a property, and you can go in and build them around different likes or desires that you have. So this is really cool. I wanted to make sure in the time that we were on the call that we were able to go through this. Now, Jared, I've seen a ton of questions come in. This is the biggest webinar we've ever done. Again, I want to thank everybody for joining us, but I want to make sure we utilize the collective questions of the group. I think that's one of the more powerful parts of getting a community together live and asking questions. Do you want to go through a few of those and I'll answer them as best I can, or you feel free to jump in and answer them as well?
Yeah, of course. You know, we've had hundreds of questions here. So if your question, you know, hasn't gotten answered yet, just, you know, hang on for a minute or two, and someone will be right with you. And also, you know, we're going to be staying here on the call here for a little bit, so feel free to keep those questions coming. But, you know, we've had a lot of calculation and number related questions. Just keep in mind that Jeremy is demoing an app from College Station, Texas. So unless you're located in College Station, your numbers are going to look a little different, as they do in each area and with each you know, title company branded app. However, with that said, if you need further assistance, you know, we suggest reaching out to your title sales rep. You know, they're pros on this. They'll be able to point you in the right direction. If you're still having, you know, some sort of technical difficulty or anything like that, you know, just type in your question in the chat and we'll be able to help you out, or email support@palmagent.com, you know, kind of as a last resort. We'll get you taken care of. Also, we had some of you either, you know, miss a screen or two during the webinar, or ask, you know, how Jeremy accessed a certain feature. A couple things to keep in mind here, a couple different options. We're going to be holding this webinar again a couple more times this week. We'll also, you know, be sending out some sort of, you know, video replay of this. But also, you know, for right now, if you actually go to YouTube and type in PalmAgent tutorials, you'll stumble across our YouTube page, which has really great videos on each of these buttons. And, you know, all this stuff will give you the ability to play and pause the video whenever, so you can go at your own pace. So we strongly suggest doing that. If we didn't cover something that you were looking for during this webinar, we're going to be holding more webinars over the coming weeks. We're going to go deeper into other features, just like Jeremy mentioned. So keep an eye out for our email invites, notifications, all that stuff with more information. But I think that about covers, the questions in general, Jeremy. But again, we'll be staying on here for a little bit. If you have specific questions about anything.
Perfect. Thank you, Jared. Guys, thank you so much. You guys are the community that have made this the #1 closing cost app in the country. There's really not even a close second. And thank our title sponsors, because they're the ones that have helped deliver this to everyone, helped us build it with the custom numbers and support it. Any other questions, please send them to us. We're going to do a part 2 webinar. We've got several guest speakers that we're going to be inviting on. We have some incredible iBuyer calculators that we've created. We have a new update that allows you to, on the sellers programs, actually pull in property tax records, which is going to be really, really cool. This is kind of a sneak peek of it. So the same net sheet that you've always run, but it actually lets you plug in a specific address up here at the top, and it will go in and pull property tax records and even loan information if it's available. And that's going to be incredible. It'll take it to another level. So lots of cool things to look for from your title partners in the coming month. And we just want to thank you all for joining. We're going to stick on and continue to answer your questions. And everyone have a wonderful week. Be safe. And hopefully we brought you some value here that you can go out and put a message out to your clients and helping them answer some of their questions remotely and dial this program in for you for your market. Everybody have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.